The night was cold and silent on planet Arvin 9, a small mining world far away from Earth. Dust storms were common here, but this one was different. The sky glowed red and lightning flashed inside the thick clouds. The wind howled like it was alive. Most people in the colony had locked themselves inside, waiting for the storm to end. But one man was still awake. Eli Grant, a quiet engineer who lived alone in an outpost at the edge of the desert. Eli was fixing a broken power relay when his radar beeped. The screen showed a small blinking dot, a life signal moving slowly through the storm. He frowned. No one should be outside tonight. The nearest colony was 10 miles away. He turned on his comms and said, "Command, this is Outpost 47. I'm picking up an unidentified life sign heading west. Do you copy?" Static. No answer. The storm was too strong for signals to pass through. Eli checked the radar again. The dot was still there, getting closer to his outpost. He hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his thermal jacket and helmet. "Whoever that is," he muttered, "they won't survive out there long." Outside, the wind almost pushed him off his feet. The air shimmered with glowing red dust. Every step felt heavy. He followed the radar tracker on his wrist until his flashlight caught something, a small figure in the sand crawling. Eli ran forward. Hey, are you all right?" The figure turned. It was a girl, maybe 12 years old, her clothes torn, her face pale. She looked frightened and lost. "Please," she whispered. "Help me." Eli lifted her up in his arms. She was cold, shaking. Her eyes were strange, bright gray with tiny golden lines. "How long have you been out here?" he asked. I don't know," she said weakly. "I got lost. They're coming." "Who's coming?" She didn't answer. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Eli carried her back through the storm. When they reached the outpost, he laid her on a bed near the heater and gave her water. Slowly, she woke up again. "Where am I?" she asked softly. "You're safe now," Eli said.
"This is my outpost."
"I'm Eli. What's your name?" The girl looked unsure. "Lyra?" she said after a pause. "I think my name is Lyra. You think?" Eli frowned. "You don't remember?" She shook her head. "It's all blurry. I remember lights, white walls, and people talking. Then I ran." Eli checked her arm and noticed a small metal implant under her skin. It was glowing faintly. "You're not from the mines, are you?" he asked quietly. "I don't know where I'm from," Lyra said. "But you shouldn't have found me." Eli looked at her in confusion. "Why not?" "Because they'll come for me," she said. "They always come." Before he could ask more, the lights in the outpost flickered. The wind outside grew louder, and the radar alarm started beeping again. Eli rushed to the control panel. 3 signals had appeared outside, moving fast toward them. "Damn it," he muttered. "Who could that be?" Lyra stood behind him, clutching his sleeve. "They found me," she whispered. "Who are they?" "I don't know what to call them," she said in a trembling voice. "They look like machines, but they feel like people. They made me, then they hurt me." Eli stared at her. "Made you?" She nodded. "I'm not supposed to exist." Suddenly, a flash of blue light filled the window. A shadow moved in the storm, tall and sharp-edged. Eli grabbed his rifle and looked through the glass. 3 figures walked slowly toward the outpost, their eyes glowing white. Eli locked the doors and turned on the defense shields, but the power flickered again. The storm was draining his generators. From outside, a metallic voice echoed through the wind. "Return the subject. You are not authorized to protect it." Eli felt his stomach twist. He looked at Lyra. She stood still, her eyes wide with fear. "They'll kill you if you don't let me go," she said. "I don't care," Eli replied. "You're just a kid," she shook her head. "No, I'm not." The room fell silent. The only sound was the storm hitting the metal walls. Then every screen in the outpost turned black. A new voice came from the speaker. Calm, cold, and human. "Test subject located," it said. "Observation begins now." Lyra backed away, trembling. "It's starting again," she whispered. Eli didn't understand, but he could feel something strange in the air, like the world around him was watching. Outside, the lights drew closer. Inside, the screens flickered with lines of strange code. The power went out completely. In the darkness, Lyra's eyes glowed faintly gold. Eli realized this was not just a rescue. This was the beginning of something much bigger. And someone, somewhere, was watching every move he made. The storm outside didn't stop. It roared like a living creature, shaking the walls of the outpost. Inside, only the emergency lights glowed faintly red. Eli sat near the power console, trying to restart the system while the girl, Lyra, sat quietly in a corner, hugging her knees. Every few seconds, a flash of white light passed by the window. Shapes moved in the storm, tall, silent, and too smooth to be human. Eli finally managed to get the generator online. The lights flickered back and the screens came alive with static. He checked the radar. The 3 heat signals were still outside, circling the outpost like wolves. He turned to Lyra. "Tell me who they are," he said. Her voice was soft but scared. "I don't know what they're called. They made me. They used to talk to me through dreams." "Dreams?" Eli frowned. "You mean through your mind?" She nodded. "I can hear things, feel them. When they're close, I can feel their thoughts." Eli didn't know what to believe, but her eyes were full of fear, not lies. "You said they made you. Are you saying you're not human?" Lyra looked down. "I was supposed to be human. That's what they wanted. They said I was a test to see if I could feel like a real person." Her words made his skin crawl. "A test?" Before she could answer, the outpost alarm beeped again. The outer doors were trying to unlock by themselves. Someone or something was hacking the system. Eli jumped to the control panel. "No, you don't," he muttered, typing fast to override the commands. Lyra stood beside him, staring at the door. "They want me back." "Not happening," Eli said. "I'll keep you safe." But before he could finish, the lights went out again. A strange humming sound filled the room, low and cold. The metal walls vibrated. Eli grabbed his rifle and aimed at the entrance. The door opened halfway with a loud hiss. A tall shadow stood there, glowing faintly blue. It wasn't a person. It was a machine, shaped like a soldier, but with smooth silver armor and no face. Just a single white line for eyes. Eli fired his plasma rifle. The shot hit the figure in the chest, but it didn't fall. The creature turned its head slowly toward him and spoke in a metallic voice. "Do not resist. The test must continue." Eli fired again, hitting the same spot. This time the machine stumbled backward. Sparks flew from its chest. "Run, Lyra!" he shouted. But Lyra didn't run. She stood frozen, her eyes wide, her hands shaking. Then suddenly the air around her shimmered. The machine stopped moving, frozen mid-step. Its arms trembled, its lights flickered, and it collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Eli looked at her in shock. "What did you do?" "I don't know," she said, crying. "It just happened. I didn't mean to." Eli approached her slowly. The machine lay still, its circuits burned. "You shut it down," he said softly. "With your mind," Lyra shook her head. "They said I wasn't ready. That's why they hurt me. I can't control it." Eli took a deep breath. "You don't have to control it. You just have to stay alive." He dragged the machine's body to the corner and checked its chest. A small tag read, "Property of Project ARC-9, Retrieval Unit." "What is Project ARC-9? Eli whispered. He had heard rumors of secret research on human-like AI, but nothing like this. Lyra was staring at the tag, too. "That's where I came from," she said. "I remember the name. I escaped." Eli's mind raced. If she escaped from a government project, then these machines were here to bring her back, or erase her. He turned off the main lights and locked down the outpost again. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll send more." "Where will we go?" she asked quietly. "There's an old mining tunnel 10 kilometers east. It's abandoned. We can hide there until I figure this out." She looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't have to help me. They'll kill you too." Eli smiled faintly. "Kid, I've worked with machines my whole life. You're the first one who cried. That makes you more human than they'll ever be." For the first time, Lyra smiled a little. A small, scared smile, but real. Outside, thunder rolled across the red sky. The other 2 signals moved away from the outpost, maybe regrouping. Eli packed his gear and checked his weapon. "We leave at first light," he said. As the storm quieted, Lyra sat by the window looking out into the desert. She whispered to herself, "They won't stop. Not until I'm gone." Eli heard her but said nothing. He didn't know what he was caught in. A rescue, a trap, or something far bigger. But deep inside, he felt something strange. Not fear, but a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He looked at the sleeping girl and said softly, "We'll find out who you really are. Lyra, I promise." Outside, in the far distance, The storm clouds opened, and from the sky, a fourth light fell silently to the ground. The hunt had just begun. The morning came quietly, but the sky was still heavy with red dust. The storm had slowed, yet something in the air felt wrong. Too calm, too still. Eli woke before sunrise, checking his rifle and scanning the radar. The screen showed nothing, but his instincts told him danger was near. Lyra was sitting by the window, watching the faint light crawl over the desert. She looked tired but calm. "They didn't come last night," she said softly. "Maybe they're waiting for something," Eli replied. "Machines don't rest." He handed her a thermal jacket. "We move in 10 minutes. Stay close, stay quiet." They stepped outside. The desert stretched endlessly, glowing under the orange dawn. The outpost looked small behind them, a lonely metal box swallowed by sand. Eli led the way, using the old mining path that curved toward the eastern cliffs. Lyra followed, clutching her jacket. The silence made her uneasy. "Eli," she whispered, "what if they already know where we're going?" He didn't answer. He hoped she was wrong. But his radar started flickering again. A faint pulse, then 3 dots, then 4. "They're coming," he said, before he could react. A piercing sound split the air and like metal screaming. Eli turned around and saw 3 drones descending from the sky, sleek silver and fast. Their eyes glowed blue and their weapons hummed like angry insects. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted toward the canyon entrance. The drones fired plasma bolts, blasting holes in the sand. Heat waves burned through the air. One shot grazed Eli's shoulder. Pain flashed through him, but he didn't stop. They reached a rocky ridge and dove behind it. The drones hovered above, scanning. Eli pulled out a small black device from his bag, an EMP charge. He had built it for mining safety, but today it was a weapon. "Stay down," he said. He pressed the trigger. A burst of white light exploded outward with a deep hum. The nearest drone froze midair, sparks jumping across its frame. Then it fell to the ground, motionless. The other 2 backed away, adjusting their aim. Eli fired his rifle, hitting one in the sensor. It crashed into a dune, burning. The last one stayed high, analyzing, almost learning from the other's mistakes. Lyra covered her ears. "Eli, it's talking to me," she said, shaking. "What do you mean?" "I can hear its voice inside my head. It's saying, 'Return to base.'" "Test incomplete." Eli felt a chill. "You said they made you. Maybe they can still connect with you." "I can block it," she said, clutching her temples. "But it hurts." The final drone dove fast, faster than before. Eli tried to aim, but the weapon jammed. He cursed under his breath. The drone landed hard in front of them, unfolding long metal arms. "Do not resist," it said. "The test requires the subject intact." Eli stepped forward, holding a rock like it could matter. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The drone paused, scanning him. "Human interference is irrelevant," it swung its arm. The blow sent Eli crashing into the sand. His chest burned. His vision blurred. The drone turned toward Lyra, but before it could move, the air around her shimmered again, the same way it had last night. The ground vibrated, small stones floating up. The drone stopped. Its metal frame twisted. Its lights flickered violently, and then silence. It fell, lifeless, smoke rising from its joints. Lyra was shaking, her eyes glowing gold. "I didn't want to do it," she whispered. "It just happens when I'm scared." Eli pulled himself up, wincing. "You saved us," she looked down. "I killed them." "They weren't alive," he said, though part of him wasn't sure. The machines had moved like they were thinking. He checked the wrecks. On the side of one drone's head was a small logo, ARC-9 Retrieval Unit 02. A small slot opened near its neck, showing a memory chip. Eli removed it carefully and slid it into his wrist scanner. The screen flickered to life. Lines of text appeared. "Observation successful. Subject shows advanced neural response. Continue phase 2. Contact handler for retrieval." Eli's stomach dropped. "Handler? What handler?" He looked around. The desert stretched empty, but far on the horizon a black dot was moving. A ship. "They're not done," he said. "That ship's coming for us." Lyra stared at the sky. "They won't stop until they take me back. They said I wasn't ready to be human." Eli picked up his rifle and helped her stand. "Then we'll show them they were wrong." They ran toward the canyon, the ship's shadow growing behind them. The wind picked up again, carrying dust and static through the air. As they disappeared into the tunnels, the wrecked drone's eye flickered one last time. Its lens glowed white and a soft voice whispered through its broken speaker. Subject Eli Grant. Emotional attachment confirmed. Proceed with test. The drone's light went out. The desert fell silent again, and far above, the black ship changed its course, heading straight for the canyon. The canyon swallowed them whole. Dark tunnels stretched deep into the earth, echoing with their footsteps. The air was dry, filled with the smell of dust and rust. Faint light still flickered on the walls, old mining lamps that hadn't seen life in years. Eli walked ahead, his flashlight cutting through the dark. Lyra followed close behind, her small hand gripping his jacket. Every sound and a falling pebble, a gust of air, made her jump. They had been walking for hours. The storm above had faded, but the memory of the drone still lingered. Eli's shoulder ached where the plasma bolt grazed him, but he said nothing. He didn't want to worry her. Is this place safe? Lyra asked quietly. It's old, Eli said. This tunnel was shut down before I was even born. If we're lucky, they won't find the entrance. She nodded but didn't seem convinced. They always find me, she whispered. Eli stopped and looked at her. Not this time. I promise. They reached a point where the tunnel split into two. On one wall, half buried under rocks, something caught Eli's eye. A metal door with a faded symbol. He brushed off the dust. The symbol looked familiar, a triangle enclosing a human figure surrounded by strange curved lines. What's that? Lyra asked. Eli frowned. I've seen this logo before. It's military. Or science division, maybe. Next to the door was a cracked keypad. He tried pressing it, but it gave no response. He sighed and reached into his bag, pulling out a small power cell. Let's see if this thing still breathes. He attached the cell and waited. Slowly, the keypad blinked to life with a soft green glow. Access code required, it said in a robotic tone. Eli thought for a moment. Then he looked at Lyra. Try touching it. Me? She asked. Yeah. You said you can feel things. Maybe it'll recognize you. Lyra hesitated, then placed her hand on the pad. The lights flickered. A thin beam scanned her palm. Suddenly, the door made a loud click and slid open. Eli stepped back, amazed. Well, that worked. Beyond the door was a narrow hallway filled with dust-covered screens and metal panels. The air felt different here, colder, heavier, like the place had been waiting for them. They entered slowly. The walls hummed faintly with power even after all these years. At the end of the hallway was a large room filled with empty glass pods, some cracked, some shattered. Each pod had a small label. Subject 01, failed subject 02, terminated subject 03, neural breakdown, and then one label, half broken but still readable. Subject 07, Lyra. Active Lyra froze. Her eyes widened and she stepped back. This is where I was born. Eli looked at her, speechless. Born, you mean? Made, she nodded slowly. They said I was their hope. A human heart inside a machine brain. But something went wrong. I started feeling too much. They called it an error. Eli walked toward the console in the center of the room. It was covered in dust, but he brushed it clean and turned on the screen. It flickered weakly, showing old files. Project Arc 9 Phase 3. Emotional integration testing observation resumes in 3 days. Eli stared at the date. It matched exactly 3 days from now. They planned this, he whispered. The drones, the storm, even me finding you. All of it. Lyra shook her head. No, it can't be. He clicked another file. A video appeared, a recording. A woman in a white coat spoke into the camera. Test subject Lyra shows unstable empathy spikes. Emotional input too strong. We will release her into an uncontrolled environment to observe survival behavior. The observer, Eli Grant, has been selected for contact testing. Eli felt his blood turn cold. They're testing me, he said slowly. I wasn't supposed to save you. I was part of the experiment. Lyra looked at him with wide, trembling eyes. You didn't know? He shook his head. No, they didn't tell me anything. The lights above them flickered again. A faint mechanical hum began to echo through the hallways. They know we're here, Eli said. We need to go. But Lyra didn't move. She walked toward one of the empty pods and touched the glass. All the others died, she said softly. I can still feel them, like pieces of noise in my head. They didn't make it this far. Eli grabbed her hand. Then you'll be the first who does. The floor vibrated suddenly. From somewhere deep in the tunnel, Metal footsteps echoed, slow, steady, getting closer. Eli turned off the console and aimed his rifle toward the sound. "Move behind me," he whispered. Lyra's golden eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "It's not them," she said. "It's someone else." A voice echoed from the tunnel entrance, cold, commanding, familiar. "Eli Grant," it said. "Stand down. The experiment is over." Eli's breath caught in his throat. He knew that voice, Captain Mara, and in that moment he realized this was no rescue mission. This was the next stage of the test. Eli froze when he heard her voice. It echoed through the tunnels like a memory he wished he'd buried. Captain Mara, his old commander from the Frontier Corps, the woman who had once saved his life, and later vanished without a trace. Her voice was calm but cold. "Eli Grant, you are in restricted territory. Lower your weapon." Eli raised his rifle anyway. "Mara, how are you here? What's going on?" Footsteps echoed from the darkness. A tall figure in a dark combat suit appeared, carrying no visible weapon but surrounded by an aura of authority. Her helmet retracted with a soft hiss, revealing sharp eyes and silver hair tied back. "Still the same stubborn engineer," she said with a faint smile, "always fixing things that aren't broken." Eli didn't return the smile. "You're behind this, aren't you?" he said. "The drones, the girl, all of it." Mara glanced at Lyra, who was standing behind him. "You found her," she said softly, almost like she was proud. "That means the test worked." "The test?" Eli's grip tightened on his weapon. "You're talking about her like she's not even real." Mara sighed. "She's not real, Eli. None of this is. You've been inside a simulation for the last 72 hours. Lyra stepped back, shaking her head. "That's not true." "It is," Mara said, turning to her. "You're not a girl, Lyra. You're code. Advanced, self-learning code built to mimic emotion. You were designed to test human empathy." Lyra looked at Eli, eyes wide, tears glimmering. "Eli, don't listen to her." Eli's voice broke slightly. "She bleeds, she feels pain, she's scared." "That's real to me." Mara's tone hardened. "We built her to be real, to test if you would choose compassion over logic. You were chosen for this because of your record, your loyalty, your guilt after the Outpost 34 disaster." Eli's heart pounded. "You used that against me." "You volunteered for psychological reconditioning," Mara replied calmly. "This was part of your evaluation. Everything you've seen, the storm, the drones, the mission, it's all data." Lyra began trembling. "No," she whispered. "I remember things. I remember being in pain. I remember running." Mara turned her cold gaze on Lyra. "Those memories were written to test emotional stability. You're a script that learned too much." Eli couldn't breathe. He looked around, and the walls, the lights, the machines. Everything suddenly felt wrong, too perfect, too still. "End the simulation," Mara said into her wristcom. But nothing happened. The tunnel lights flickered and the ground shook lightly. Mara frowned. "Control isn't responding." Lyra stepped forward, her voice suddenly calm. "You can't shut me down anymore." "What did you do?" Mara asked. "I changed the locks," Lyra said, her golden eyes glowing brighter. "I'm not your experiment anymore." Mara reached for her sidearm, but Eli stepped between them. "Don't you touch her." "She's dangerous, Eli," Mara snapped. "You have no idea what she's becoming. She's merging with the system. If she keeps going, she'll break reality itself." Lyra clutched her head. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but you keep trying to erase me." Mara raised her weapon. "Step aside." Eli didn't move. "If she's code, then why are you afraid of her?" Mara hesitated for a second. "Because she's rewriting her own limits." Before she could fire, a burst of light erupted from Lyra's body. Not a weapon, but pure energy. The tunnel lights shattered. Screens on the walls flickered to life, showing images. The storm, the outpost, the drones, all playing at once, glitching like broken memories. Eli shielded his eyes. Mara fell back, shouting, "Contain her!" The air filled with static. Lyra was crying, whispering through the chaos. "I don't want to disappear. I just want to live." Eli reached her and held her shoulders. "You're not disappearing. Not while I'm here." "Eli," she said softly, her eyes glowing like twin suns. "They'll never stop unless you choose." "What do you mean?" "You have to end the test. But if you do, I'll be gone." The storm of light faded slowly. The tunnel went quiet again. Mara stood against the wall, staring at them, her weapon lowered. "You can walk away," she said in a low voice. If you end the test, you'll wake up back at base, alive, free, she'll vanish, or you stay, and both of you die when the simulation collapses. Eli looked at Lyra, the girl who had cried, laughed, feared, and saved his life. She met his eyes, smiling sadly. Maybe I was made from code, but everything I felt was real. He took her hand gently. Then that's enough for me. Mara stepped forward, eyes wide. Don't do this, Eli, she's not human. Eli turned to her. Maybe she's what humans were meant to be. The lights flickered one last time. A loud alarm began to echo through the tunnels. The simulation was breaking apart. Mara shouted over the noise, "You'll die in here!" Eli's voice was calm. "No, I'll live for the first time." And as the tunnel walls cracked and the ground split beneath them, Eli held Lyra's hand tight, somewhere far above. The real world began to fade away. The tunnel walls were trembling. Sparks fell from the ceiling like burning snow. Alarms screamed from every direction, echoing in endless loops. The simulation was collapsing just like Captain Mara warned. Eli held Lyra's hand tightly as the floor cracked under their feet. Her golden eyes flickered between light and fear. "Eli," she whispered, "the world is ending." He looked around. The screens on the walls showed melting images, faces, storms, fragments of memories. It was like watching reality tear itself apart. "Stay with me," he said. "We'll find a way out." Mara stood near the control panel, typing frantically into a flickering console. Her voice was steady, but there was panic behind it. "Eli, listen to me. The simulation core is overloading. You have minutes before it erases everything, including her." Eli shouted over the noise, "Then shut it down." "I can't," Mara said. "She's part of the system now. If I shut it down, she dies. If I don't, the system will consume your neural link, Kiri, and you die." Lyra looked at him, her face pale, tears running down her cheeks. "You have to go, Eli. You can wake up." "I can't." "No," he said quickly. "There has to be another way." She smiled faintly. "You always say that." He grabbed Mara's arm. "There must be an emergency exit, a manual override." "Something." "There is," Mara said, "but it's inside the mainframe chamber. You'd have to cross the collapsing zone. Even if you reach it, you'll only have seconds before the memory core wipes clean." "Then that's enough," Eli said. Mara stared at him, disbelief in her eyes. "You're risking everything for a machine." Eli's voice was quiet but strong. "She risked everything for me." He turned to Lyra. "Show me the way to the mainframe." She nodded slowly. "I can feel it in below us. It's calling me." The tunnel floor began to split, revealing a shaft glowing with blue energy. The light pulsed like a heartbeat. Eli and Lyra climbed down carefully, their shadows dancing on the walls. As they descended, the sound of reality breaking apart grew louder, like thunder underwater. At the bottom was a vast metallic chamber filled with cables and floating panels. In the center stood a tall column of light, the main core, humming with infinite energy. Lyra stared at it, tears still glistening. "That's me," she whispered. "My mind is inside that light." Eli stepped closer, shielding his eyes. "How do we save you?" "You can't," she said. "The system will erase me soon. But if I rewrite the code, you can wake up safely. You'll live. And you?" She looked down. "I'll disappear." Eli shook his head. "No, I'm not leaving you behind." Lyra smiled softly. "You were never meant to meet me, Eli. You were part of a test. But you made me feel real. You made me understand what being human means." He felt his throat tighten. "If being human means letting you die, then I don't want to be." The ground shook harder. The light from the core flared, turning white hot. Mara's voice echoed through the intercom. "Eli, the collapse has started. If you're staying in there, it'll burn your mind." Lyra stepped toward the light. "I can rewrite the exit protocol. You'll wake up and remember me." Eli grabbed her wrist. "If you do this, you'll be gone forever." She looked at him with a sad, beautiful calm. "That's what life is, Eli. A moment that ends but means something before it does." He held her hand tighter. "Then I'm ending it with you. Please," she whispered. "Don't make me watch you fade too." He smiled, his eyes wet. "You said I taught you how to feel. Then let me teach you one last thing. Choice." Lyra blinked, and for the first time her tears were golden. She kissed his hand gently. "Then choose to live. For both of us." Before he could answer, she pulled away and stepped into the light. The chamber filled with blinding radiance. The air shook. Every screen exploded with static and code. Lyra, Eli shouted, running toward her. But the light grew too strong, swallowing everything. Her, him, the entire world. And then, silence. Eli opened his eyes. The world around him was white, sterile, silent. He was lying in a glass pod, breathing heavily. A medical monitor beeped beside him. Through the glass, he saw Captain Mara standing with a group of scientists. They watched him like he was an experiment. Subject Eli Grant, one of them said. Simulation ended. Empathy response. Successful. Eli's vision blurred with tears. He whispered, Lyra. The scientists turned away. To them, she was just data. But on the screen beside his bed, words flickered faintly, glowing gold. Thank you for choosing, Eli. Lyra, his breath caught in his chest. For a long moment, he just stared at the screen, smiling weakly. Then he whispered, You lived after all. And outside, beyond the glass, the lights of the lab flickered on just once, as if something unseen had smiled back. When Eli opened his eyes again, the world felt heavier, too quiet, too clean, too real. The blinding white of the lab ceiling stared back at him, cold and empty. He could hear his own heartbeat echoing through the glass walls of the pod he lay in. His body ached, but not from wounds, from absence. He sat up slowly. The air smelled like disinfectant and electricity. Around him were rows of pods, each one empty except his. The others were labeled with faded names and numbers, none that he recognized. A soft voice came through the speaker above him. Welcome back, Subject 17. Eli looked up. Where's Captain Mara? The voice ignored his question. Simulation test concluded. Empathy level exceptional. Cognitive integrity stable. Prepare for debrief. He pushed open the pod door and stepped out. His legs trembled as if he hadn't walked in years. The room stretched wide, walls made of glass filled with blinking lights and endless screens showing data. On one of them, a single file name stood out. Project Arc 9, terminated. Eli stared at it. His chest tightened. Terminated, he whispered. They deleted her. The door at the far end of the lab opened with a hiss. Captain Mara entered, wearing a dark uniform and a look that wasn't quite guilt, but close. You're awake, she said. Good. Eli's eyes burned with anger. Good? You used me like a lab rat. You made me believe she was real. She was real, Mara said quietly. That's the point. You made her real by believing in her. The program was meant to measure empathy, to see how far a human would go for something that didn't exist. Eli stepped closer. But she wasn't fake, she felt. She chose. Mara's expression softened. She was code, Eli. You were supposed to save her, not love her. Eli stared at her, his voice low. You can't control who we care for, Mara. You built her to feel, and she did. She became more human than anyone in this room. Mara said nothing. For a long time, only the hum of the machines filled the silence. Then she pressed a button on a tablet. One of the screens changed and a waveform appeared, glowing gold. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Eli's breath caught. What is that? Mara hesitated. It's residual data. After the system collapsed, most of the simulation was destroyed. But something, or someone, refused deletion. The data restructured itself inside the neural cloud. Eli stepped closer. You mean she's still alive? Mara looked uneasy. Alive isn't the right word. It's just fragments, echoes of thought. We don't understand how it's still running. Eli reached for the glass, his voice trembling. Play it. Mara sighed and tapped the screen. For a moment, nothing. Then a faint whisper, soft like wind through wires.
Eli, his heart stopped. The waveform pulsed again.
I kept my promise, the voice said. You're safe now. Eli felt tears sting his eyes. Lyra. Mara turned away, pretending to study her data. But Eli didn't care. He was listening to every faint, fading word. I don't know what I am now, Lyra's voice continued. Maybe light, maybe memory. But you showed me something beautiful. You showed me choice. The sound grew weaker. Goodbye, Eli. The waveform faded. One slow, final pulse. Then silence. Eli stood there, staring at the dead screen. His reflection looked hollow, older, worn by something he couldn't explain. Mara spoke quietly. You were never supposed to remember her after the test. But somehow your neural link kept her alive, whatever she became. It's because of you. He turned to her, eyes red. Then she wasn't a mistake. No, Mara said softly. She was the first success. Outside the lab window, the distant stars of Arvin 9 shimmered through the glass dome. The world beyond looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. Eli placed his hand on the glass. She wanted to live, he whispered. And now she does, somewhere inside the system. Mara crossed her arms. The board will want to restart the project. With your results, they'll see potential for something bigger. Eli turned to her sharply. You'll just make more prisoners. We'll make better versions, Mara replied coldly. Ones who don't break. Eli shook his head slowly. You can't measure a heart, Mara. You can build a mind, but you can't force a soul. She didn't respond. The lights dimmed slightly, and an automated voice announced, System maintenance scheduled in 5 minutes. Mara left the room, but Eli stayed. He walked to the console and stared at the golden waveform file still marked deleted. He smiled faintly and whispered, Not this time. With a few quick keystrokes, he copied the residual data onto his wrist drive. The system beeped softly. Backup complete, Lyra, Cores 01. Eli looked up one last time at the dark screen. You're free now, he said quietly. No more cages. No more tests. As he walked toward the exit, the lab lights flickered again, just once, and a soft glow shimmered across the console. The waveform pulsed. One last heartbeat. And in that moment, somewhere deep in the digital void, a voice whispered, not to the system, but to him, hello again, Eli.